Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the elect of the nation of Israel. This is your brother Ayash Gabar from the GMS Virginia camp, coming at you with another lesson that I pray that you find edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai. First off, I would like to say Salakia Akim for not putting up as many videos as I normally do. I've been going through some things in the flesh and in the spirit that needed to be handled, and I'm still sick. I'm still fighting my ailments, as most of us do, but that is still no excuse to not do the work. But nonetheless, here I am. So, as I'm looking around at the things that are coming to pass in the world, with Trump doing all of these things to upset the other nations who are his allies, he doesn't understand that it's all the will of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. He's doing exactly what the Lord wants him to do. And this man is so prideful that he actually thinks that he's doing it of his own will. So aside from that, all of these tariffs and sanctions and stuff like that is going to do nothing less than bring Babylon the Great, aka America, to its demise. And again, that's all the will of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai at the end of the day, and in that, I'm watching Jake, and I'm watching how Jake moves. I'm listening to Jake, and Jake doesn't understand the things that are happening in the world today. Jake doesn't understand geopolitics. Jake doesn't want to know geopolitics. Jake don't even want to know, the things that's being cultivated around him that will soon have him in derision. But the prophets of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai are still out there on the highways and byways, yet still, even to this very day, prophesying into the wind in most cases, because, Yasharallah is just stiff-necked. They sit back and they listen to what we say and they scoff at it, you know what I'm saying? And that's the big thing that's happening now in the world, because a lot of Jakes is starting to say things that will lead into the persecution of the elect of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. And we expect these things to come in. Well, we expect these things, to come. We expect these things to happen. But in that, we are still commanded to do the work for as long as Yahweh Hashem Yahushua puts the spirit upon us to continue to do the work. Even when we're in the wilderness, we are still supposed to do the work. You don't stop working until you're on those chariots and your position is secured. You continue to work. You have a continual employer that requires work of you. You just don't stop working, doing the job of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai just because the sun goes down. A lot of times I lay in my bed and I think of precepts for a lesson. A lot of times I'll be doing something and, I'll strike up, a thought or a title for a lesson, and I'll jot that down. And, and then on those days when I don't have titles for a lesson, I'll go ahead and use that title, and then, the spirit will start flowing. But these people don't understand that the words that are coming out of the true prophets' mouths of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai are real. And very soon they're going to realize that they were told by a prophet, Essentially, very soon these people are going to realize that a prophet has been among them. You know, so I'm going to grab Salakia, bro. I'm going through issues in the cardio, but I'm going to grab the book of 2 Peter chapter 1 and verse 19. We have also a more sure word of prophecy. We have a sure word of prophecy given to us by Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, you know, pursuant to the book of Salakia, pursuant to the book of Revelations. For the spirit of Yahushai is the spirit of prophecy. So we have a sure word of what the Lord is telling us is going to come to pass. You know, we don't waver in these things. We say it's going to happen and we believe it's going to happen. You know, whereunto ye do well that ye take heed. And a lot of jakes ain't taking heed, you know, to what the prophets of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai is saying, because they've got the liberty not to, because we're in the grace period, you know, and then within this grace period, Jake is using his grace period maliciously, you know, not trying to find Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, not trying to understand the words that are coming out of the prophets' mouths, not trying to seek the Lord while he may still be found, which is out there on the highways and byways, you know. Jake just ain't doing these things. But very soon, Jake is going to realize that he should have been doing these things, because when Jacob's trouble kicks in and, you know, everything starts shutting down, and it looks like everything is going to shut down relatively soon. You know, I'm not saying it's going to happen next month, next 2 weeks or whatever, but it's going to happen soon. And it's going to happen so soon and so suddenly that these Jakes ain't going to know what to do. You know, they will truly be confounded in Babylon. They will be confused in Babylon beyond what they can imagine, you know. And the scriptures say, and there, you know, when all these calamities fall upon Jake, they're going to seek Yahweh Hashem Yahushai early. Well, if you seek the Lord early and you don't know his name, who are you seeking for? You know, because by that time, Lord's will, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai will shut the mouths of his prophets, you know, get us off of the highways and byways. So who are you going to be seeking for? What name are you going to cleave to, you know, in the time of your calamity? You know, and these are just the things that, you know, Jake just don't consider, you know. Whereunto ye do well that ye take heed, as unto a light that shineth in the dark. Salakia. As unto a light that shineth in a dark place, until the day dawn and the day star arise in your hearts. So we have a sure word that the words that we were given to warn you about, preach to you about, you know, tell you about the kingdom, you know, to come. These words that we were given to tell you, we believe these things. You know, we believe in what we are telling you. Why? Because the spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai is upon us. You know? And anyone who understands the words that are coming out of a prophet's mouth, consider yourselves blessed. Because very soon, there's going to be a cleansing phase, you know? And you're starting to see it now, you know, like with all these other camps. You know, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai is having these other camps in derision, whereas their leaders are being called out. Their leaders are being put in positions that is really fucking embarrassing. You know? You shouldn't be over in these other countries, you know, advocating for, you know, apostolites. Well, not apostolites. I forget the word. But you should be over in these other countries, you know, doing the Salaki, I'm kind of messing up the word, but let me put it this way. The internet was meant to do the heavy lifting. You don't see our elder apostles, bishops, and elders going over to these other countries, and preaching unto these other people, which in most cases, are probably fucking heathen with a couple of Israelites sprinkled through them. You just don't see that, And so for these other camps, to go, overseas, over in Africa and wherever, to do this type of work, that's not what the Lord told us to do. The Lord told us to go out here on the highways and byways, in the main concourse, and warn the people of these up-and-coming calamities. He didn't say go and grab a flight ticket, to, wherever it is that they go. Because what ended up happening is you end up getting stoned by the fucking natives that just don't believe in what you believe. You've seen that with groups like IUIC. That's not what the Lord told us to do. And anybody who's a part of that camp who actually saw that, who actually has some level of spiritual discernment, should see that that was off. You got groups like Sakari and, ISUPK, whatever. Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is about to have these groups in derision. And these are going to be the groups that a lot of people turn to. Because the true prophets of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua will be removed off the streets. The book of Proverbs, chapter 1 and verse 26. I will also laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. And that's exactly what the prophets are going to do. Because there's going to be a big I told you so moment. There's going to be a huge I told you so or we told you so moment. And there's nothing short of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua looking at your dumb ass, telling you, I told you so. And the prophets of the Lord laughing at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. Yeah. When your fear comes, don't don't look for them in the GMS. Because we warned you. We warned you, and what did you people do? You turned your back on us. And as I said earlier, you scoffed. You threw shit at us. And in some cases, you spit on us. You threw drinks on us. Not realizing that you're being mocked. So that's what you 2/3 got to look forward to. You 2/3 got to look forward to fearing the things that are coming on the earth. And of course, that's that nuclear destruction. But even before that, all out calamity is going to break out throughout the world. And what more here in Babylon the Great, where damn near every household has a pew-pew. Damn near every household in America has a fucking pew-pew. So what are you Jake's going to do? You're going to fear. But this is what Yahweh Hashem Yahushua told his elect. Fear not, thou worm Jacob, ye men of Israel, I will help thee, saith Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, and thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. So we're not worried about, we're not worried about the things that you're going to be worried about during the time of Jacob's trouble. Even though we're going to be in it, and we're in the flesh, and the flesh is going to do what the flesh is going to do in terms of having some level of fear. But at the end of the day, our faith is going to be the main instrument that gets us through these things. The words that Yahweh Hashem Yahushua told us he would do for us, which goes back to the book of 2 Peter chapter 1 and verse 19. We also have a more sure word of prophecy. We have a sure word that Yahweh Hashem Yahushua will do what he said that he's going to do to redeem his elect. We have a sure word in and knowing that Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai will feed us. We have a sure word that Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai will give us to drink. We have a sure word that Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai is going to be our strong tower. We have a sure word in these things. But you two-thirds are going to fall right into the book of Proverbs, chapter 1 and verse 26. Actually, you're going to fall deeper into that in the book of Proverbs, chapter 1 and verse 27. When your fear cometh as a desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you. When your distress and anguish cometh upon you, when you don't know what the fuck is going on, or how to react, or what to do when other people are reacting to what's going on, a lot of you people are just going to lose it. A lot of you jakes are just going to lose it. I don't give a fuck about the heathen, but a lot of you jakes are just going to lose it. You know? You're not going to know what to do and where to go and how to act. The scriptures say knowledge and wisdom shall be the stability of thy time. A couple of weeks ago, you had this Jake handing out $20 bills asking people to just give him a Bible verse. And Jake couldn't even do that. So what more in the time of Jacob's trouble when Jake hasn't even been seeking Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai? You know? So I'm going to close off on this. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 51 and verse 47. Therefore, behold, the days come that I will do judgment upon the graven images of Babylon, and her whole land shall be confounded, and all her slain shall fall in the midst of her. These are the days that's coming where Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai is going to use... Babylon the Great is nothing short of a memorial of what not to do to these other nations. Because when the kingdom of Yasharallah comes into fruition, Yasharallah is going to be in order. But to you other nations, you heathen nations, who think that you're going to somehow resemble what Babylon the Great has done, this place is going to be a memorial to you to show you that that's not going to happen. You know, you're going to get rid of all your weapons, and what weapons you have will be turned into farming equipment. You're going to be happy in the kingdom. But Esau Edom, hey, you're fucked. And you two-thirds Jakes on this side, you're fucked. Because judgment is being handed out at a greater and greater level. Every day that goes by, judgment is increased. You're hearing more and more about how women are being destroyed, women are being taken, women are being lost and destitute. You know, men, you know, hey, judgment is going forth. Judgment is going forth here in Babylon the Great, and it's only going to get worse. And with what Trump is doing as far as these tariffs, and what these other nations are starting to do in terms of joining unto each other, you know, and starting to hate the whore, this is all prophetic. This is all prophetic. You know, and for the elect to see these things, we have a sure word that the words of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai are faithful and true. That's a faith builder within itself. When you can read the scriptures, and the scriptures say that the beast shall hate the whore, and then you're living in a time where the beast is starting to hate the fucking whore. It's a beautiful thing when you read the scriptures and you know, it speaks of the nuclear destruction. And then you hear the main conversations going around nuclear destructions. The MOTB, you hear about these things, and you see it. So we have a more faithful and true word given to us by Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. These are faith boosters to show the hopeful elect, or the elect period, that the words of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai are faithful and true. But 2/3 ain't going to believe it, and 2/3 are going to be fucking confounded. And we're not to give not a cry nor a prayer for these people. Because if you do, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua ain't going to hear it. Oh, Lord, save her, please. No. Nope. Because when I called, while they had yet liberty, they refused to hearken unto the words of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. So, nope, I don't want to hear shit. The death angels are out here, to slay young, old, maids, little children, women. They're out here. And all we are to do is to do exactly what the Lord told us to do. Go out there on the highways and byways and prophesy and edify the elect. Comfort those that be like us. That's what we are to do. These epistles are also meant to comfort the hopeful elect. Anyhow, with that, I'd like to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who woo well. Peace and salutations unto the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom.